Saw, and today's Toolbox Talk video, we're going to be talking about the circular saw. I guess I should have found my circular saw first. And I'm going to show you exactly how to use this safely and confidently. We're going to go over some parts references and things to do, things not to do, kickback tips, and look at my little handy dandy note. Choosing the right blade, setting up your circular saw, cutting straight lines, cutting angled lines, how to cut plywood with the circular saw, different types of jigs for circular saw. This is my circular saw. It is by Heart Tools and it is cordless. Uses a battery, and I don't typically recommend it for my DIY beginner students. It is just a really powerful tool that you're in complete control over, and some of the other saws that are stationary are better for when you're just starting out. If you only have a circular saw and you don't have an option of buying a miter saw, then you'll be okay. And we'll get you some step-by-step instructions to use it confidently and safely. 10 years ago, I had no idea how to use one of these, so before you know, you don't. If that makes you feel confident. I feel like that should. Let's get started. As always, use PPE, personal protection equipment, personal protective equipment, and you are using your power tools.
Hold your saw with two hands, a handle and front grip for more control. It'll either be electrical or battery operated. Remove power before adjusting. It has a top blade guard and a lower retractable blade guard. You have 2 marks to follow your cut line depending on if you're cutting straight or if you're doing a bevel cut at 45 degrees. Loosen your wing nut to adjust to the degree that you want to cut and then tighten it back up. And that's the same with lowering your blade depth. My circular saw has a thickness guide, which is helpful. You always want your blade to come down about 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch below your stock. This is your shoe or the base of the saw that sits on your piece of wood. Keep it resting on the wood as you go. Don't tilt it up and don't tilt it down, and don't go side to side, even if you get out of your line. Always keep it nice and straight. This is how it's gonna come when you first get it, okay? Find your blade lock button, click it so that we can unlock it. And I always forget that it's reverse. Righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. So take off your nut first. And take off your washer. Then put your blade on. Most saws will have a direction on how it spins. Blade rotation. Just match your arrows. Put it back. And then you want to make sure that your washer is on the other side. Okay? Your nut. You're gonna wanna make sure that you tighten this up. So you're gonna have to press your spindle lock again. Tighten it with your Allen wrench until it's tight. Don't over tighten it, but a good squeeze. Put your Allen wrench back where you found it. You don't lose it. And as you start doing more and more DIY projects, you'll learn that there's different blades for different types of projects. Here's a quick guide, not that you'll remember, but it's just kind of good to know and get yourself familiar. You can Google the blade type you need, but here's some basics.
The thing that you're going to want to do is obviously read the instructions. I'm going to drop some links to some ocean standards and a little bit more about safety and what their standard is. I just think it's good to know. Once you're ready, you can kind of play around with it and look at it before you put your battery in, like we just did.
It's getting hot in here.
You're going to have a safety trigger, and you have to press that in order to start. Here's your start. It's not gonna go. Gotta hit the safety trigger, and then you can start it. Then you can let go of the safety trigger. I actually just found that out, okay? I always held my hand on the safety trigger. I don't know why. So I always recommend my students listening to their saw several times, starting it without using it. It helps you gain perspective on how powerful the tool is, what it sounds like. It helps just build your confidence because you're going to be getting used to that sound, because the sound alone is one thing that can be really scary, I know. So hold it away from your body, make sure you have a good grip on, listen to it a few times. Wait till the blade comes to a complete stop before you move. A protective cover on the blade. If it were still spinning and you set it down, take off, okay? You have a controlled grip on the saw. When you first start, only the front part of your saw shoe is going to be on the wood,
which makes you naturally want to
lift up a little bit, and that's not what you want to do. You want to try to keep it flat and level with the board. Clamp it down. And since you're in control of the saw and it's moving with you, another important thing to remember is when you're using it that you are stable. Like you don't... I won't come in again. You're fine. Anyways, make sure that you are not wobbling, you're not leaning on your board, putting your weight, you want to have a steady stance and you want to be in full control. That way, if there is a kickback or the board moves or if there is an accident, that you are able to safely move without falling on your saw.
The retractable guard moves on its own, so you don't need to move it.
And you're always going to want to start your saw away from the wood. So you want to start your saw, get it going, and then cut into the wood.
Only lift your blade guard when cutting at an angle. Let it go a couple inches into your cut, grab your front grip, and continue cutting. When cutting plywood, you're going to need support boards. You don't want your blade to hit the ground, and you also don't want your board to start bending in as you're cutting it, because then it can pinch the blade and cause issues. Here I made my own DIY saw guide. Just make sure it's square. You can also buy them. I have one from Craig Jig. It's a little pricey. I actually found a better one that was cheaper on Amazon. I'll link that below. When you're cutting with the grain, it's called a rip cut. So now let's do a cross cut, which is cross the grain. Again, you're going to want support boards on both sides of your cut line here. I actually had an issue cutting this part and it was a great teaching moment. Let me show you. I start to cut the wood and I feel resistance. That is an immediate indication I need to stop. So I check out the board and I notice that in one of the layers there's some wood missing. So I decided to test out another section that didn't have any wood missing. And I had no problem cutting through that. You can see where this section is missing and it probably caused some of the other wood to expand a little bit, and it made this section right here a little bit tighter, so it was tight for my saw to go through and cause some resistance. Let's look at another kickback scenario. Here you'll see that I'm only supporting this 2x8 board on one side, so it's causing the board to pinch my blade where it could potentially jump back out back at me. Always support your boards close to the cut line.
Get it, got it good.
And don't fret if you start to get off of your line as you're cutting. Just stop your saw, move it back a little bit, and start again. Just make sure that your blade is in the kerf and not touching the actual wood before you start your saw back up again. And always unplug or remove your battery of your power tool.
I hope you found this how to use your circular saw video useful and easy to follow. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and follow to learn how to design, build, and decorate.